Hello everyone and welcome to How Good Are the Gods of My Hero Record, not just as in like lore wise, oh yeah, we have a god right here, but also as in like gameplay wise, the gods of My Hero Record. So we're gonna start out with Ultimate Madoka, or as most people call her, Madokami, because it's like faster to write. So I'm just gonna call her Madokami from now on. She has 2 Exaltis, 2 Blast Discs. Her discs don't actually matter that much, just know that she can get to Magia, I guess, and that's gonna be somewhat important. Her stats are, I mean, let's just look at her regular 5-star stats. Pretty good, pretty good. A lot of HP in there, quite a decent amount of attack, defense, maybe not that amazing. With Spirit Enhancement, she doesn't actually get that much HP as some other characters get, and her attack, however, gets quite a bit of a boost. Like, she gets all the way up to the attack values of some attack-type characters, even though without that, she's maybe on the lower end of what an attack-type character might have, so that's some good attack on there, and defense also gets a pretty nice boost, almost all the way up there to how some bad tanks might have it. Like some really bad, maybe even some really good lower rarity characters might have defense that might be comparable to this. So her stats are pretty darn good with Spirit Enhancement. However, because like I said, her HP didn't actually get that much bonus from Spirit Enhancement. It's kind of weird that was like the one thing she was always known for on. Like in general, before SE, she was known for having good HP, and now she's known for not having good HP. It's kind of weird. But yeah, moving on though, we have a personal. It's terrible. We have an EX skill, because she's an ultimate type, she has an EX skill. I guess Exceed types also have EX skills. However, Exceed type EX skills usually only work for the character themselves. However, ultimate type EX skills work for everyone. And also, the EX skill actually gets better if you reach 4 slots. So if you have 1 slot, 2 slot, or 3 slot, Ultimate Madoka, you get the weak effect. And if you have 4 slot, then you have the strong effect. I say strong is like 50% stronger. What do we have? Well, everyone gets a regenerate HP. I'm going to just go with the 4 slot effect, because if you really care about this character, you probably have a 4 slot, or are at least trying to at some point, so this is what you're aiming for. And what we have is, well, 3% regenerate HP for all allies. Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. However, because it's passively active all the time, if you go into any quest that lasts for like even just longer than 5 turns, or maybe even you go into 100 Evils quest or some EX challenge quest that might last for a really long time, you start to notice that your characters are ticking up over time. For example, if your characters are taking a bunch of damage at the start of the quest, and the quest goes on for like 5 or 6 more turns, or 7 turns, 8 turns, that keeps going on for more turns and more turns, you'll really start to notice, wait a second, my guy that took a bunch of damage at the start of the fight suddenly is full again. That's pretty cool. So yeah, that's a really cool thing to have. Of course, it synergizes as well with having sort of effects that work best at full HP. For example, if you have someone with sword on your team, or you have multiple people with sword on your team, or happiest moment in human life, which is the lower rarity version of that. When I say lower rarity, the unlimited version of that, of sword, then having this passive regen is really good, but it's not very strong. This is not something that you would like try and play an entire playstyle around, but it's nice to have. But as we have does aim resistance up 30%. Awesome. This is probably what Madokami was always known for, and even before she got Spirit Enhancement, like even while other characters had Spirit Enhancement and she didn't, people still played Ultimate Madoka in their big PvE teams. Why? Because the Dust Aim Resistance was so awesome for so many EX challenge quests where the enemy would like try to overwhelm you with Stellar's ailments, but guess what? 30% resistance, awesome. Trying to outplay the enemy EX quests, and so she was able to like completely destroy enemy EX quests with that, and she was really, really good at that. Or just challenge quests, like any sort of quest that was really difficult and that had any sort of Stellar's ailments in there, you pop Ultimate Madoka in there, even if she wasn't SE'd, and she would do really fucking awesome stuff. What else do we have? Well, her Connect is pretty darn awesome as well. It has damage up 40%, nice. Stealth aim resistance up 100%, awesome. What if they already have a stealth aim resistance up? Then they get it removed, awesome. And they also get a 20% chance, 20% HP survive. There's this weird thing with the chance, but who cares about 4-star anyway. So yeah, they get a survive, and when they're about to die, they won't die, and instead will be invulnerable for the rest of the round and get healed back to 20%. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And because they have stealth aim resistance up, and you remove stealth aimants, they're not going to have an aimant at the end of this. So for example, one of the ways you would counter survives is by cursing, and if someone was cursed, then giving them survives wouldn't do anything, they would just die at the end anyway. But with this, that can't happen, because if they have it already, it gets cleared, and they can't be reapplied with it because they have stealth aim resistance up. Awesome. guarantees people stay alive, but it also gives 40% damage up, which also makes sure people deal damage. It has everything in one. Both the defensive and the offensives completely on point. Then you have the Magia, and keep in mind that she has 2 Excellers, so she can get to Magia somewhat alright at a decent pace, and it damages all enemies, okay. It gives attack up to all allies 40%, blast damage up to all allies 35%, 30% charge attack damage up, 30% XLMP gain up, and 45% damage cut at Magia level 5. These are fucking ridiculous buffs. Once again, we have amazing defensive stuff in here, and we have amazing offensive stuff. All the offensive stuff you could want, and all the defensive stuff you could want, because damage cut is kind of the only defensive stuff you really need, because if you have a high damage cut, usually nothing can ever touch you. So yeah, what else do you need? It's fucking amazing. And Magia 2 is just more of it. Magia 2 is actually kind of bad. Like, if you're trying to min-max, then you wouldn't actually unlock Magia 2 for Ultimate Madoka, so you can use more of your regular Magia, and not Doppel, because Doppel is actually really bad for the buffs. However, it does decent damage, right? In the way that I usually play Ultimate Madoka is I play her actually as kind of a damage dealer on my team. Like, yeah, her buffs are great, but I play her along with Mikage and IroYachi, and IroYachi and Ultimate Madoka both are like sort of the damage dealers, while Mikage is sort of there to buff everyone. Everyone buffs everyone. That team that I just said, by the way, is actually pretty darn fucking busted, because everyone buffs everyone so fucking hard that if just one character gets anything off, then everyone is buffed so goddamn hard that you basically can't lose anymore. It's actually kind of busted. Anyway, so yeah, these buffs are actually ridiculous. The damage at Magia 2 is still quite alright. So we were already looking at a pretty amazing character, but then Spirit Enhancement hit, and guess what? Her Spirit Enhancement is actually pretty darn good. And why? Because there's some cool stuff in here that maybe a lot of other characters don't get. Starting out, she gets 15% crit. She's not directly an attack type, but she still gets the 15% crit. That's good to have. Awesome. She gets some Magia damage up. Okay, normal stuff in here. Some XLMP gain up. That's really good, because you want to get to Magia. Magia is really good, so XLMP gain up. Awesome. Nice. Some other bonuses. And then we got some good stuff. Damage up versus witches. Okay, maybe not that good, but that's some cool stuff. Well, I think the other 2 characters that have this is IroYachi. I think IroYachi has this, and Hagumu. Hagumu has that as well because of her lore. Like, the lore behind Hagumu is that she's like a witch slayer, like not specifically like her character, but like her magic. Her magic is basically really good against witches, and that's why lore-wise she has damage up against witches. However, how good is this? Well, not actually that good. I mean, how many quests are there where there's really powerful witches? Usually, and I've said this before, usually when there's super powerful multi-tile bosses, it's usually Uwasa and not witches, which is weird. But yeah, usually it's Uwasa that are the really powerful bosses and not witches. But yeah, I guess sometimes there are really powerful witches as well. And then this one could actually be really good. But then, and this is also interesting, 15% damage cut against the lesser elements, which are Aqua, Flame, and Forest. Okay, how much do you hate everything that isn't light and dark, Mr. Developer? Because, yeah, lower elements can basically go home, because they all deal less damage against Ultimate Madoka. That's kind of crazy. And then she regenerates HP, and this is the most important part about her entire SE, all the way here on the bottom, on the bottom right. She regenerates 6 MP per turn. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty darn good, especially because you would play her, like I said, in tougher challenge quests, in EX challenge quests, maybe 100 Evils quests, or definitely 100 Evils quests that go on for long turns. And when it's going on for long turns, regenerating yourself and all allies, and regenerating MP each turn for yourself as well, you're just gonna get to multiple Magias just through this bonus alone, throughout that entire battle. Like, if I had a 100 Eels quest that lasted for 40 turns, you can do the maths. I'm getting multiple Magias just from this. That's kind of crazy. And the active, all allies get all discs up. So Excel up, Blast up, and I guess a secondary Blast up in here as well, for 3 turns on a 10-turn cooldown. So it actually has like a 30% uptime. That's pretty darn good. That's pretty darn good. Buffs everyone. So Madokami is the absolute support machine. The absolute support machine. She supports everyone with everything. Everyone gets damage. Everyone gets to survive. Magia also. Everyone gets damage. Everyone gets to survive. Some really cool stuff in here. Everyone gets everything. She also takes less damage herself. Can crit for some reason. Does a lot of damage herself even because she has good attack. And some Magia up as well. And she regenerates HP, and it's hard to kill her, and she gives everyone stealth and resistance up. She gives everyone everything, and she can do damage herself. Ultimate Madoka with SE kind of busted. It's kind of easy mode, and yeah, when I play exchange quests and I play like Mikage, Ultimate, Madoka, IroYachi, kind of easy mode. It's kind of hard to lose anything. It's kind of, you just can't lose when you have that team. It's easy mode. Okay, it's not completely impossible, but it's really fucking hard to lose with that sort of team because, I mean, like I said, everything I said about Ultimate Madoka kind of busted. So is IroYachi just as busted? Not quite, but still pretty darn busted. So another Ultimate type, and by the way, the lore reason why IroYachi is Ultimate type, I didn't say this during the actual IroYachi review that I did for the North American server just before it died, was because it was kind of spoiler, is that the reason why they're Ultimate is because they are using the magic of Ultimate Madoka. That's why they're Ultimate type. Because you see those wings, and the gainers in here, but you see those wings, like the interlocked legs, oh my god, so gay. But yeah, the wings are because they have the magic of Ultimate Madoka, and that's why they're Ultimate type. That's the reason why. Yeah, they have the same discs, they have very similar stats. They have some less HP, some less defense, but a bit more attack. So they're more offensive focused than Ultimate Madoka, but still also pretty good stats across the board, but not quite as busted as Ultimate Madoka. What about the personal? It's actually somewhat alright, like 10% MP gain up on a character that does want to get to MP, and we'll see that, yeah, they do want to get to Magia. They do want to get up on that, so that's fine. 2 extra MP when getting hit by dark attacks, that's kind of useless. If this was anything else, it would have been way better. So should you use this Memoria? Probably not, because the secondary effect is kind of wasted, and the other effect is just 10% MP gain up. Just play something that does attack up or damage up, or even excel MP gain up, or anything else will probably do you better than this, because it's just not good enough for what it does. But at least more usable than what the fuck this is. Moving on with their EX skill, they also have an EX skill that goes on everyone. It's 37.5% defense up. So we already see there's some cool defensive stuff on this character, similar to how Madokami was protecting people, so are IroYachi protecting people, and they themselves are immune to crits twice. That's pretty darn good. So you see there's a very defensive EX skill, just like how the EX skill of Ultimate Madoka was also very defensive, but in a different way. Like this is also like regenerate and does aim resistance up, and this is just straight up defense for everyone and a little bit more for themselves. Awesome. So yeah, once again, really defensive, which makes me kind of think that once Akuma Homoda joins the game, that maybe she's gonna have an aggressive EX skill with like damage up 10% everyone. Oh, looking at that. Yeah. Moving on though, so yeah, there's not too much to say about this other than it's pretty good that if you have another defensive stuff on here. If you play together with tanks, it would be great, but you don't need to play together with tanks. Like sure, on tanks, the defense up does more, because if you have more defense, then getting a 37.5% bonus, it's a relative bonus, so if you have more, you're gonna get more. If you put this next to Toka, then not only are both Iroha&Yachiyo going to turn around and kill Toka because she's Toka, but also she only has like 6,000 defense, and 6,000 times 1.375 is still 0. But if you put this on next to a tank who already had like 14,000 base, then that would be a lot more. Although a tank with defensive Memoria would be all way over like 20,000 or something, so it would be way better for them. But even so, you don't really need to do that. You don't need to focus on that, because if you just play other characters that are good, usually other characters that are good, like Ultimate Madoka, already have a lot of defense. Mokyu, for example, Little Kyubey. Little Kyubey also has a lot of defense, like 12,000 defense or something. It's crazy. So a lot of really good characters already have a lot of defense, or at least a decent amount of defense anyway, so the effect of this will already be pretty good. So what else do they have? Connect. Are we going to see some similar stuff to Ultimate Madoka? Kind of. It's more aggressive. It's way worse on the defensive part, like the clearing styles aimants that Madokami had, the aiming resistance that she had, the survive on that. There's a lot of really cool defensive stuff on there, but with the damage up, it still had some aggressive stuff on here. Now it's kind of the opposite, where we have just a little bit of defensive stuff with the HP restore, but on the other side we have both an attack up and the crit, and with the crit you can have people dish out some ridiculous amounts of damage. Put that together with anyone, and with both attack up and crit, like just having crit alone is usually something that I don't like, but attack up on top of that, oh, now we're talking, because now you have the ability to deal a lot of damage, and we still have the defensive part with the HP restore. Awesome. So it all really looks pretty good, right? Well, then what about the Magia? Oh, once again, it gives damage up versus witch against all. As I said this before on the Ultimate Madoka review that happened like 5 minutes ago, that IroYachi also had that, and yeah, they give damage up against witches on all characters for 3 turns. It's kind of useless, whatever. That one doesn't really matter much. But it still gives attack up 40% to all allies, just like Ultimate Madoka also gave attack up to all allies. So if both of these people use their Magia, you're basically capping everyone on attack already, which is kind of busted. And if you throw Mikage in there, then you can already cap everyone on attack up without even giving anyone an attack up Memoria. So the weird part is if you play sort of Mikage, also Madoka, and IroYachi like I'm doing, I have attack up Memoria on my characters, but in theory I wouldn't even need them because I can be capped at 100% attack up all the time anyway, so it's kind of weird. And also revives a random ally because Iroha is part of this. There's actually one other character that can also revive fallen ally. It's Iroha alone. Good job. The Magia 2 is just a bit more of that. So this Magia is not nearly as good as Ultimate Madoka's. This Magia is actually not that great. However, it will do a bit more damage because they are a bit more attack focused on their stats. But yeah, so the attack up is the same thing that Ultimate Madoka has, and apart from that, damage up versus wishes just doesn't really matter too much at all, and the revive is very situational, and if you need to revive someone, the quest is already going bad. Why not get buffs that make it so the quest isn't even gonna go bad in the first place? Sounds way better. So yeah, also Madoka's Magia was kind of busted, IroYachi's Magia is kind of not that great, it's actually really not that great at all. But at least still the attack up can be quite nice. More importantly though, what about the Spirit Enhancement? What about the Spirit Enhancement? We've seen all of that. Well, we've seen 10% damage cut, pretty good, and guess what? They just get a 10% damage up. They just get that. They just have that in here, 10% damage up, awesome. And with that, their Magia hits even harder. What else do they have? They have the other Magia damage up, cool. They have a flat 10% MP gain up, which makes them easier to get to Magia, awesome. Now they don't have MP per turn, just like Ultimate Madoka did, but because they also have instead the MP gain up 10%, I think they still have a decent time of getting to Magia, similar to how Ultimate Madoka has it. What else do they have? Well, they are immune to Bind and Stun. That sounds pretty good. They're gonna be almost always be acting unless they get charmed. But if you put them next to Ultimate Madoka, then they're not gonna get charmed that easily either because of the Stars aim resistance. Awesome. They also have damage up versus switches. Okay, that's some stuff in here. But here's the thing. They have a weird passive in here, Inherited Protection. Did you know there's another character in this game that has Inherited Protection? It's called Yachiyo, that character. And Yachiyo, if you've watched my Yachiyo review, you already know what this does. If any ally dies, you get a buff. I think with Yachiyo, that buff only lasts like 2 turns or 3 turns, or even 1 turn. Like the buff doesn't actually last that long. I think on Yachiyo, however, this is eternal. This is an eternal buff, and I think at least I think so. I'm not 100% certain, but I think this is an eternal buff that lasts forever, which also means that if you somehow have someone on your team die all the time and then keep reviving them, you could get an infinite attack up and defense up buff for this character, for IroYachi. How busted is that? Well, it's actually not as busted as you think, because we already know that with the attack up spam that we have from the Magia, we already have a really high attack up, and getting a little bit more attack up doesn't really do anything, and this can only get to 100% anyway, and then you're capped. And the defense up, you're already starting at 37.5% attack up, so there's only like 63% more attack up that you can even possibly get. So it's not that overpowered to keep trying to stack this up, but it's still a really nice bonus to have, to know that this character is just going to get stronger when other people die around them. And what is the active? Every character gets negate critical hit, so this is the same thing that they have for themselves, but every character gets that now for once, so they will ignore 1 critical hit. What this does is that if they are going to get crit, they will instead take damage as if it wasn't a crit, and then this buff disappears. And they also get 60% damage cut themselves, which will make them a lot nicer for mirrors, because if in mirrors they have a lower defense and they're going to get attacked, then you can pop this and they'll survive the turn. So IroYachi are back to being kind of crazy in mirrors if we didn't have Magia meta, because I mean they don't really play well into Magia meta because they take like more than like 3 turns to get to Magia, so that kind of sucks. But if we didn't have Magia meta, and if we still had the old mirrors meta, where you play 2 characters and try to do turn 2 blast connect to victory, IroYachi would probably be a top pick. But we don't have that, so yeah. So overall, IroYachi is really good. She's more offensively focused than Madoka, while still having some defensive stuff here and there. She's going to do more damage than Ultimate Madoka does. However, she's not nearly as good at supporting people and protecting people, but she's still pretty darn good still. So both of them together, kind of busted. Actually, kind of busted. Put Mikake in there as well. Oh, amazing. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and I'll see you guys next time.